quality of recyclables in Victoria. Glass bottles and jars now go in your new glass recycling bin. Lids must be firmly attached. Loose lids go in your general rubbish bin. Steel tins, aluminium cans and foil, paper and cardboard, and plastic bottles and containers go in your mixed recycling bin. Food scraps and garden clippings go in your food and garden organics bin. You can use paper towels to wrap your food waste. Put your glass bottles and jars, food scraps and mixed recycling in the bin loose, not in bags. Plastic bags and other items that can't be reused or recycled go in your general rubbish bin. This includes kitty litter, animal droppings, old textiles and nappies. General rubbish should be bagged or wrapped. Update your recycling knowledge today. Learn what goes in each bin by visiting merri-bek.vic.gov.au/recycling-guide.
Hi, I'm Adam Pulford, Mayor at Merri-bek City Council, and today I'm at the Fawkner Leisure Centre. In April last year, we closed the doors here to make way for the first stage of a huge $36.8 million redevelopment. We listened to the community and we're upgrading the centre to make it modern and more accessible and sustainable. So come, let's check it out. I'm here in the shell of the new 50-metre outdoor pool. The pool will have 8 lanes and can be split into 2 with a unique float-up divider. It'll be the perfect spot to get your swim in or cool down when we reopen next summer. Our interactive water play area and beach entry pool is also taking shape. This is completely new to Fawkner Leisure Centre, and featuring a walk-in entry, this accessible and user-friendly space will surely become a family favourite. Now to the new gym and group fitness spaces. As you can see, construction is underway, ready to house the new 375 square metre gym floor, which is 100 square metres bigger than before, as well as 2 dedicated group fitness spaces. This is going to be a state-of-the-art facility designed to get more people in our community to be more active more often. With the centre set to reopen in time for next summer, we're excited to keep sharing with you updates as everything takes shape. So make sure you're following along as we bring the new Fawkner Leisure Centre to life.
Why did we decide to go all electric? The primary motivation was obviously to reduce our carbon footprint as a family, especially with a young son, 8-year-old, who's attending primary school and learning all about climate change and how we can do our bit in reducing the impact. Since purchasing this house, we've installed solar panels, and we've also converted all our appliances cooktop into induction cooktop. Removing the gas cooktop, we've installed the split systems and also the hot water heat pump. At the moment, we export most of our electricity that we produce on a sunny day, which is not a bad thing because we do get paid for that exporting the electricity. What I would recommend others thinking of going on this journey of making their home all electric is to do it. But you can take it one step at a time, there's no rush, and there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of government rebates that you can access as well. There's our Merri-bek City Council website, there's Renew, there's also My Efficient Electric Home Facebook page where you can consult and talk to people that are on this journey.
The compost that we receive from Merri-bek Council that's made from the waste from our green bins, the food and organics waste, is a fantastic resource. A lot of carbon, a lot of organic matter that goes to building up the soil here, combined with the compost that we make ourselves. You know, a really brilliant resource for the garden, and it produces fantastic crops, as you can see behind me.
Well, obviously it's really important to compost food. If it's just going into the normal bin, then it's creating all these really bad greenhouse gases and contributing to climate change. But the benefit for community gardens is that we can't generate as much compost on our own, so we need the addition of council compost to help us grow vegetables and renew the soil so we get the best productivity from the garden.
Sometimes when we get the compost, there's contaminants in it, like plastics, biodegradable bags. Some of them are not quite suitable for the process that the compost goes through. We have to then sort through the compost and pull them out, otherwise they're going to contaminate all our vegetables and the earth that we're trying to re-nourish with the compost.
Messages go around on Facebook saying, hey, there's zucchini or cucumbers in the basket at Pentridge, and they're gone in, half an hour later. So we just like to share it with the community because that's what it's about.
Hi, I'm Adam Pulford and I'm your newly elected Mayor at Merri-bek City Council. I was originally born in the Northern Territory, but since then I've made my home here in Merri-bek. I love our progressive, creative and diverse community. There's so many great places to visit, and there's always something new to learn, something new to see, or something to do. In 2018, our council declared a climate emergency. The reality is that the climate crisis demands we reshape our cities to deal with the impacts of rising heat and more extreme weather events like flooding. But there's also opportunity. Imagine if we use this chance to make our streets greener, cooler and more livable, and safe for everyone to get around in, no matter if you're walking, riding or driving. There's a lot of work for us to do together, and I'm really excited about the next 12 months. So please get in touch with your ideas, and I look forward to meeting you out in our community. Got it? Good evening. Can you hear me in the gallery? Great. And Councillor Pavlidis, can you hear me? Great, awesome. Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's special council meeting. My name is Councillor Adam Pulford, and I'm the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council and the chairperson of tonight's meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you tonight. First up, we're meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways and pay our respects to their elders past and present, as well as to acknowledge any other First Nations community members who contribute so much to the life of our city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to our website and Facebook. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Attendees are advised they'll be recorded during tonight's meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we'll act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which supports the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of everybody. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. Thanks everyone for your understanding and cooperation. So I'd like to introduce the councillors and officers in attendance tonight. So first up we have Councillor Angelica Panopoulos.
Hi everyone.
We have Councillor Anna-Olivia Carley-Hannon.
Good evening.
We have Councillor Mark Riley. Good evening. Councillor Oscar Yildiz. Councillor Monica Hart.
Hello everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton.
Hi everybody.
Councillor Helen Davidson is running a little bit late, but she'll be here shortly. Online, we have the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lambros Tapanos.
Good evening, everyone.
We have Councillor Helen Pavlidis. Sorry, do you want to say hello again, Helen? We just didn't hear you.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, great. Thank you. And Councillor James Conlon.
Hi, everybody.
I'd also like to introduce our CEO, Kathy Henderson, and we have members of our executive and of our governance team with us as well, making sure tonight runs smoothly. I don't believe we have any apologies for this evening, so I'll move on to disclosures of conflicts of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare?
Yes, I'd like to declare conflict of interest for any funding for Brunswick Zebras Soccer Club.
Great.
Is that on the actual agenda? Or is it alternative? Oh yeah, great. And also the Breeze Street item. And also if any Brunswick Northwest kindergarten funding is in this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carly Hannon. Councillors, are there any further conflicts of interest to disclose? Great. So we will now move on to council reports. The first report we have to consider this evening is item 4.1, Merri-bek City Council 4-year budget 24 to 28 and council action plan 24 to 25 for adoption. You can see Councillor Riley has his hand up. I'll just read something out first. Councillor Carly Hannon has declared a general conflict of interest on some proposed budget items related to Brunswick Zebras, Breeze Street and Brunswick Northwest Kindergarten, was it? Yeah. So with the agreement of council, we can separate those parts of the proposed budget to enable Councillor Carly Hannon to participate in the remainder of the proposed budget. So we'll get to that in the voting stage, but we can debate everything first. So, sorry, Councillor Riley, you wanted to move the motion?
Yes, please. If I have a seconder, I can speak to it. I want to move the alternative motion that was circulated to council today around 4:09, I think.
So we'll just make sure we get that up on screen.
Thank you.
So councillors at home are also aware.
It's just got all of the consolidated changes. They're all in one change. So
it includes the Breeze Street motion proposed and then the...
I'm struggling to hear you if you're not speaking into the microphone.
Yes, sorry, I was just, as we were waiting for it to be projected, I was just explaining something to Councillor Bolton, but that's okay. We've got it on the screen? Great. Okay. Okay, yeah. So we need to take out that point A relating to Breeze Street due to the conflict of interest. So, okay, yeah, sorry. So yeah, so that'll be moved separately, the Breeze Street item, given the conflict of interest. So sorry, Councillor Riley, we've got the proposed motion on the screen. Is there a seconder?
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to second the motion.
Yeah, sorry, councillors, we're just trying to work out whether it's better to flip the order. So just one moment.
Yes, it probably would be.
Mayor, can I just clarify? I believe that the issues that would need to be separated out to address the conflict of interest are two capital works items, one about Northwest Kindergarten, Brunswick Northwest Kindergarten, and one about the lighting for Belf Park, which relates to the Brunswick Zebras, and one about the Breeze Street and Hope Street, which is referred to in the alternative motion. So those three things would need to come out, either to be debated first or to be debated second, in separate motions.
Okay, so we've had a few councillors suggest we debate those specific items first. I don't believe so, yeah. So Councillor Carly Hannon is going to leave the room and we're going to deal with those three items that relate to her conflicts of interest. And then we can kind of shift back to the broader debate on the budget.
is there time to get it up, or we just talk to those three separately? We don't have...
No, they'll be considered.
Do we want to do them now or after?
We're doing it now, yeah.
That's okay. I can just talk to them.
So yeah, we're now just debating and voting on those three specific items that the CEO just read out. And then we'll return to the substantive. Councillor Riley. And so we need a second. I saw Councillor...
I'm happy to move this part of the motion as a separate item.
Yes, yeah. So do we have a seconder for those three items? Councillor Tapanos has got his hand up. Councillor Riley.
Thank you. This is a little bit odd. We're talking about three very specific parts of the budget tonight. One is in the amendment, the alternative that went around, which is to reallocate $30,000 in the capital works to the Breeze Street master plan to include Hope Street. And there are some other wordings around that. I won't read them all out, but they will all be considered as part of this section of the discussion of the budget tonight. And then the other two items relate to Belf Park lighting item, and the other one was, please, the kindergarten at Brunswick North West. So those three items are what we're considering right now. Due to the conflict of interest, we're just going to approve them first and then get to the substantive budget afterwards. So happy to support all of those items in the budget this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Yeah, no, fair enough. So Councillor Tapanos is seconder.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and councillors. All are very worthy projects to be funded. I won't get into the specific details apart from the Bree Street project, which has been discussed extensively by councillors in briefings, and a good project to be supporting. Bree Street, as many of you will know, is an area that's had quite intense development over the years, and a master plan to invest in the public realm would be very welcomed in the area, and it's work that would be money well spent and would hopefully improve the amenity of the area, considering the density that it has. So very supportive of that, and making sure that Hope Street is included in that master plan process. So and the other projects around sports and childcare centres, quite significant but standard investments that council makes and have been in our capital works projects for a number of years. So happy to support all of them.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak to this smaller item? Great. We're just making sure we've got the text all good on the screen. Yeah. I think it's just an extra dollar sign. Great. Okay, so there was no opposition to that, so we'll just move straight to the vote. All those in favour? And, okay. Any councillors against? Any abstentions? I declare that carried. We will now get Councillor Carly Hannon back into the room, and we'll move on to the debate of most of our budget, and appreciate the quick work of the governance team in pulling that together. Great.
Thanks.
So Councillor Riley seeks to move, yeah, and welcome Councillor Davidson. So we will just make sure we've got that motion on the screen. Now we'll need a seconder for this item.
Lambros Tapanos.
Okay, so Councillor Tapanos has his hand up, so seconder. Perfect. And we've got it on the screen, so all good. So go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. Thanks, Mayor. I'm moving the alternative recommendation, which is ostensibly the officer recommendation with a few changes that I'll try and outline. The budget tonight for 24-25 is what we're dealing with, and really this is where we declare the rates and charges for the coming year and a whole bunch of other detailed items, which 3.5 pages of which I don't wish to read out, so I'm taking them as read. It's got things like open space contributions and other details around waste charges and so on. So please take a look if you're wanting to deep dive, but I do want to acknowledge that the budget is covering some very big items like the urban forest strategy and our tree planting, supporting our seniors to live independently with outdoor help, and as well as heating and cooling support program. There's solar and thermal grants for low-income earners, and there's also an assertive homelessness outreach program which we're really looking to support with $200,000 this year. There's a $60,000 increase to the shopping street cleanups, which I think is a really important one that many people have been looking towards, and also we'll be co-funding the Merri-bek work on the waterway there, the catchment, to help the community-led collaboration on nature and urban issues colliding and nurturing. We also got major capital works programs, which people will be, who follow council will be very familiar with. Our Fawkner Leisure Centre, which the Mayor and I managed to visit on Monday night, and other councillors went a few weeks earlier, which is looking really amazing, and we're hoping to have that open by summer and completing that work, along with Saxon Street Cultural and Community Hub and many early years facilities for the next 5 years, including the Dunstan Reserve Childcare. But importantly, we also have our participatory process for budgeting, where many community members propose lots of suggestions and then vote on them and help us decide some priorities. And that includes things like Merri-bek playgrounds getting sunshades, taking the next step for migrant women who are experiencing family violence and connecting them up and supporting them, drinking fountains in our shopping strips, walking routes and seating on the way to those shopping strips, free basketball court and soccer field in the Fawkner for $30,000 and a half court for basketball in Glenroy for $60,000. There are many other items which I am not going to read and bore you with, although I'm sure many people will find them interesting. The alternative actually addresses things like, and I'm going to beg the indulgence of the meeting just so I can get those out, if that's all right, rather than sweat this. But we're just dealing with a $30,000 allocation for the Fawkner Netball Club concept design, another $40,000 strategic priority to partially fund the technical design for the second hockey field at McDonald Reserve. We're going to offset those with a number of changes in the budget, which I won't read right now, but they do affect some other programs which we thought we were going to give some additional money to, but we are swapping some dollars in and out. So I'm sorry, I won't read all of that out, but it's important to note that we are also allocating some extra to Glenroy College Oval and the capital works, as well as the upgrade to the Rayburn Reserve cricket training nets. And then there are some other things like $21,600 for food relief and benefits. We're allocating another $25,000, I've just mentioned, $25,000 for the family violence flyer, which is really trying to address men's behaviours and how we're dealing with and calling up our friends in terms of the language they're using and just sharing the load in relationships and so on. So it's some really important work that's being driven by the community there. So many, many things in this budget, and very pleased to move it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Ali. Councillor Tapanosa, seconder.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Of course, we are here tonight to adopt the budget with some small changes from the proposed budget we put out to the community, and I'm endorsing the budget that's before us with those changes as mentioned by Councillor Riley. I guess the thing that stands out for me is the continuing investment in our capital works program, which is significant, and also our services as well. And some of the highlights for me include the additional investment in the seniors outdoor help, a service that we sort of started in the previous couple of years and expanding in this budget. And that's a really good thing to see, that a service that was so well received is getting the support that it deserves in the second budget. But our capital works is substantial, and that's funding really big projects, whether it's the end of the Saxon Street hub project and the Falkland Pools, big projects, or whether it's works like some of the $30,000 and $40,000 allocations that were mentioned for master plans and designs for hockey and netball and cricket nets, preparing our council to be able to deliver those in subsequent budgets. So there is so many things in this budget, I think, for our entire community. And another thing that stands out for me is that we have listened. We have proposed a budget. We have engaged the community widely. We have done the hard work as far as having the briefings, and we get down to arguing over $10,000 allocated here or there, and that's part of the budget process. Budgets are about priorities, and I feel that We've listened to the community, and right down to the last stages of that engagement and that listening, we are making the final touches tonight by including a few things, such as those feasibility studies, funding the cricket nets, funding netball, funding design works in Bree Street, as we mentioned, to go along with the big capital works projects, the early years investment that's happening at Dunstan early years centres and Albert Street in the future as well. So it's a combination of big and small projects. It is well informed by the community's input, and it's a good budget to be endorsing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the budget? Councillor Bolton.
I just wanted to speak a little bit about a couple of projects in the north. People have already spoken about Rainer Reserve, but I mean the Fawkner Netball Club and also the proposal that came up from local residents in Fawkner for a free basketball court and soccer field for all of Fawkner. That was a proposal that came up through the community budget ideas. And firstly, in terms of the Fawkner Netball Club, the club started only just really the year before COVID started. And despite the fact that it started just on the eve of COVID, the club has become really quite massive and very much engaged with the local community, including parts of the community that don't have a cultural background with playing netball. And it's great to see everyone sort of come on board. So I think it is great that there seems to be sort of agreement amongst councillors that it'd be good to assist the Fawkner Netball Club in trying to go a step forward with the resurfacing of the court and putting shelter across the courts. And the other element of which was not the Fawkner Netball Club, but the free basketball court and soccer pitch access. I mean, that is really important because Fawkner is really poorly served by public transport. So for a lot of young people in Fawkner, there's a real need to have access to facilities locally because they don't necessarily have cars or drive or someone who's able to drive them to other places to access sporting facilities. And I think that also applies with the half basketball court in Glenroy as well. So I think, I support other projects, Brunswick Hockey Club and others as well, and the Rainer Reserve. But I think it is good to see some of the projects in the north. And I also think that with an ageing population and more people living at home in very elderly age, the outdoor help for seniors is really critical. You know, people in their 90s juggling up ladders to try and chop, branches off trees that are overhanging their gutters, etc., is really quite a scary thought. And so this is really quite a critical service. We were oversubscribed last year. In last year's budget, we allocated money, but we were oversubscribed. So there was quite a waiting list waiting for the funding to come through in this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Do any other councillors wish to speak to this item? Councillor Conlon.
Yeah, also happy to support the budget. There's lots of big good things in there which I also won't go into. But yeah, just for any of the community watching, just to explain a bit the Hope Street and Bree Street project that we've got in there. So that's a master plan project. And what we've done is we've sort of massaged the money a little bit so that the scope of the Bree Street, we were originally funding a Bree Street master plan, and we've been able to sort of redo some of the figures in order to expand the scope of that master plan. So it's not just Bree Street, it's also Hope Street, because they're kind of separate, but obviously they are connected. So that purpose of that master plan is to identify a series of projects and works over the next few years so that we can deliver amenity and also street safety upgrades for those areas. So yeah, happy that that's in this budget as well.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do any other councillors wish to speak to Councillor Hart?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a very brief comment because obviously the bringing together of the budget is a really important time, a really important part of council work. And we often have really robust debates around here, as we should. But I want to acknowledge that I think when we work together well around the budget, then it's obvious to the community and it really pays off. And I'm really pleased that we've been able to hear the responses, the community submissions to the draft budget, and that we've been able to work in a really cooperative spirit together to really prioritise what we think we can fund and how we can readjust some of that budget to hear what the community's expressions were in relation to that draft budget. And I think that's really important and that's a really positive thing for our council and our community. I guess looking forward, I also sort of think that at some point it would be really good if we were able to do some bigger sort of community consultation around where some of the bigger money is spent and how we spread that, and does the community feel we've got that right? But I think that's for future days, future councils. But yeah, I commend this budget and the process of the officers and all the councillors. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hart. Do any other councillors wish to speak to this item? We might... Sorry. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pavlidis. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Must admit, it's been a sort of a 50-50 for me this time around. And I guess, look, I am in support for many of the projects that have been mentioned. I'm very supportive of them, but I'm also mindful of current circumstances. We are constantly hearing, and we can see in relation to the cost of living crisis, where people are sort of struggling to put food on the table, going without heating or cooling, homelessness and the housing crisis, and the list just goes on and on. Yet instead of freezing rates, we are increasing them, and that is where my concern is. Now, I'm not saying that these aren't great ideas and worthy of funding, they absolutely are, but we also need to be responsible with public money and ensure that the services and the infrastructure that we must provide and maintain are done so. For example, our waste services, our pruning, our street cleansing, road and footpath maintenance. That's just naming a few of the hundreds that we provide. And most of these services apply to or are used by everyone, not just a small group. And I will provide an example, a specific one. We have a road that in 2020, for example, was classified or given a rating of 3.5 or 4 based on the rating system that is done every 4 years for the roads and the footpaths. Now, with this road, as I said, was classified as a 4, yet in that 4-year period from 2020 to 2024, there have been no works done to it. And it currently, and I have been advised by officers, that there is no work scheduled on this particular road at all for 4 to 6 years. So we're looking at 2028 to 2030 if we're lucky. So while it's great, if it was a 4 years ago, it wouldn't have improved. So if anything, it would have deteriorated. So my concern is where our infrastructure needs maintenance so that it's fit for purpose, it's not being done. It's not being done. And there are many, many examples like this across the municipality because we all hear them and we're all aware of how dissatisfied our community is in relation to this. Our role as council, and part of our role, is to ensure that our infrastructure is fit for purpose and to mitigate or to reduce risks to injury, example through, claims made on footpaths and by trees and footpaths and roads and so forth. The more money we spend or allocate, the higher the rates to be paid in a time where people are struggling. So there are for some of these ideas, for example, there are other
funding sources or options available, example through our community grants, that many of these may be able to be funded. So I think we should be looking at ways to cut spending and not to increase it. So I won't be supporting the budget tonight.
Thanks, Councillor Pavlidis. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the item? We may move on to a vote. Would you like a right of reply?
Thank you. Just, given that someone's spoken against it, I think, I think my list that I highlighted earlier was to sort of show the breadth of input and the kind of issues that we're trying to address here, and many people have spoken to that, and I think Councillor Hart really summed up that this is a group effort, and there's a lot of argy-bargy, but a lot of hard work that goes in it. It's months and months of work, so really want to congratulate my fellow councillors here and all the staff who really put in huge amount of work managing us and trying to meet our requests and demands and always providing information. But I think the community contributions and the suggestions that come through, we can't always do what you want, folks, but we'll try to work on it, and that's what we do. And I think that's the spirit in which we're offering this up. So it's a great thing that Merri-bek managed to do this. As Monica Hart said, we managed to do it without, much sweat. I mean, a lot of sweat perhaps, but not too much blood being spilled. So it's really a real credit to everybody for that, and just want to thank everyone for all their participation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. We'll now move on to the vote. All those in favour? And I might just call a division because I suspect we will have one. So Councillor Bolton, Councillor Hart, Councillor Yildiz, Councillor Riley, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Carly-Hannon, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Tapanos and Councillor Conlon, all in favour. Those against? Councillor Pavlidis? And there's no abstentions as everyone's voted. So I declare that carried. Well done, everyone. Congratulations. Big moment. Final budget for the term. So we do have one more item on our agenda for this meeting. It's item 4.2, contract variation, contract 529T waste services agreement. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest to disclose on this? All right, do I have a mover? Sorry, Councillor Bolton?
Yeah, I'm happy to move this.
Yeah, and you're happy to move the officer rec?
Yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
And is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Riley. Councillor Panopoulos as the mover.
Great, thank you. So this is just a contract variation to our contract with Citywide Service Solutions, so about the waste collection that we've got in the bottom half, so the southern part of our municipality. And it's really just about extending that contract to make sure that the services can continue. So it's pretty standard, and we kind of need it. It's one of those things that people like to talk about, roads, rates and rubbish. Well, here's the rubbish part of it. So please vote in favour.
And Councillor Riley is seconder? Yep. So do we have any councillors wishing to speak against this item? You've got an amendment? Yep. What's your amendment? Councillor Bolton has an amendment. It's your mic, huh?
Basically, the substance of my amendment to the resolution, or amendments to the resolution, is to ensure that decisions come back to council, and that there is not an automatic right of extension at the end of the first extension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. So for Councillor Pavlidis, who didn't hear, the substance of my amendment, it was circulated this afternoon, but fairly late, because the substance of my amendment is for any decision, for there not to be an automatic extension beyond the first extension, for that to come back to council for resolution rather than be decided by the CEO under delegation, and for a further discussion about the future of the service amongst councillors. But I would like to add a couple of extra words at the end of 0.5, I'll send them through, including options for council to take over the waste service for the southern part of, southern side of Bell Street. I'll send that through now.
I think they're just writing it up now, yeah.
I'm happy to incorporate that as
Okay.
substantive.
Yeah, and is the seconder happy to?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Sure. So you, oh, you just need the final words? Sorry, Councillor Bolton, can you just say the final words?
The southern, I think it's the southern contract for waste services. Southern collection area.
Okay, so wait, we've now got that projected on the screen. So I just want to confirm, is that, maybe we'll just debate this as a...
Bit of a change, so I'm happy to see if Councillor Bolton's got a seconder just to hear the debate.
Yeah. Okay, is there a seconder for... Okay, Councillor Conlon.
So I did, up until that last point about including options for council to take over the Southern Collection District, I'm open to the arguments, but I'd like to hear the debate on that first.
Yeah. So Councillor Conlon's happy to second that alternative. So Councillor Bolton, would you like to speak to the alternative?
Yes, my reason for moving this, well, I've got good reasons for moving this, but also if people accept the substantial part of my amendments but not that last phrase, then, you know, maybe we could separate out that point. I'd be happy to do that. Because firstly, I guess I was quite upset that this decision about extending Citywide's contract over the waste collection services on the southern side of Bell Street is coming to council only 2 months before the contract runs out, which doesn't, so a little bit like with the animal welfare shelter in Epping, I feel like there's a gun to our head. There's really only one option. You have to basically vote for this. And I, for a long time, I've questioned the privatisation of the waste collection services on the southern side of Bell Street. I feel that those workers deserve to be on the same wages and conditions as people on the northern side of Bell Street who are council-employed workers, but also I feel that we get a better service from a council-run service. So that's my main point with these particular amendments. The substantial part of my amendments is about council being able to decide on the future of this service. I understand that obviously council can't take over the running of the service within 2 months. But I think I think, we can't risk not having a waste collection service south of Bell Street. So we will have to vote for the first extension. But I think any decision on the second extension has to come back to council. But this amended motion also includes there being a council briefing of all councillors in early 2025 to look at, the future of the waste collection service. And my last paragraph in option 5 about including options for council to take over the Southern Collection District, I would like that to be part of that briefing. Obviously, other options will be considered as well, but I would like those options to be considered in that briefing. And I sort of feel like including that in that briefing doesn't jeopardise things, because I think I can't see that risking Citywide deciding not to provide a waste collection service in the next 12 months on the basis of that.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Conlon as seconder.
Yeah, I think this is something that council should definitely explore. given that waste provision is a massive part of what council business, and we're in a comparatively wealthy inner city progressive council, so I do think that we should be exploring bringing it back in house. And moving away from the privatised model. I mean, there are other councils that have a fully in-house services, like I think it's Ararat Council and a couple of others. So yeah, I think it's good to explore this for the next council as per the amendment. So happy to be the seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do any other councillors wish to speak to this item? This amendment, sorry. Councillor Tapanos.
Thanks, Mayor and councillors. And I'm not sure exactly whether I will be supporting this amendment tonight, but I certainly agree with the sentiments expressed, and perhaps a suggestion that it will be better to maybe separate the two issues of the contract and have a notice of motion at a future meeting, even the next one perhaps, that has a look at not just our waste service itself for Bell Street, but a number of other council services that could have some work done to be brought back in-house. I would be very supportive of a motion like that into the future. I feel a little bit uncomfortable with putting it in this recommendation, which is specifically about a contract. And in regards to that contract, I'm also very disappointed and feel a little bit wedged here. It's not the best way to be making decisions, and we still don't know, or I'm not still certain about what is happening with the waste, Citywide's purchase, the sale of Citywide, and all of that. So I do feel very uncomfortable and very troubled by it all. But there's one thing that we as a council cannot afford to do, and that is risk a waste service being provided. And I'm confident in the officer's discussions, and I believe that we should be supporting the officer recommendation as is tonight. But that doesn't mean that we can't, at a next council meeting, which is only a couple of weeks away, really move a motion about in-house services, specifically about waste, but also others that we could investigate about bringing them in-house, because they do provide a better service and quite often a more cost-effective service as well.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Do any other councillors wish to speak to this amendment? Sorry, I just understand that Councillor Bolton wanted to change the words slightly, but I don't know if we can do that given we're currently debating this amendment, so we can't change the words while we're currently debating an amendment. I think just to the end of 5, slightly reworded or something like that. So, okay, so sorry, I just wanted to... So there's no other councillors wishing to speak to this amendment? Yeah, so the CEO would like to just clarify.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for all of the reflections here. Just to clarify, the original 2017 resolution to enter into a contract with Citywide was a contract and an option that would have gone until August 2025. So that was already authorised back in 2017. And there was never any prospect that we were going to be able to change the service provision model in 2025 in the last couple of years. What this before you would do is extends that first option into 2026, and also provides another option for council should a meeting of council choose to exercise that further option. Just in terms of the briefing, I don't think it's the right time now, when we really need to be finalising our agreement with Citywide to ensure that the services continue without interruption or without any change to what's going on. I don't think we need to focus on that now. But of course, in any term of council, when it comes up, when we're looking at major contracts, of course, all options can be explored at that point.
Great. Would you like your right of reply, Councillor Bolton? Sorry, was there any other councillors wishing to speak to the amendment? Oh, you did want to speak. Sorry, Councillor Hart.
I think I'm speaking to the sentiment of it, which I can understand the logic of wanting to keep open discussions about in-house coming back to council, particularly in the light now of the sale of Citywide to Cleanaway. And I think that opens up a lot of questions because we're moving into something that's unknown. I certainly appreciate the comments that Councillor Tapanos made about whether that needs to be part of perhaps a bigger motion. So I'm a little bit divided about that, but I'm happy sort of one way or the other if this motion amendment doesn't get, sorry, I just want to clear. Number 4, that stays up there, is that right? Are we talking about separately 4 and 5? We're just talking about 5 now.
So we're talking about the end of point 5. So Councillor Bolton had suggested we could vote on. So this is a whole amendment, but we could vote on the amendment in 2 parts. We could vote on all of the amendment without the last part of point 5, and then we can vote on that separately. So
I think that'd be better.
Yeah.
If we could vote on the 2 bits separately.
Great. So yeah. So I'm just saying this is a whole amendment that we're considering now, but we can split up it when we vote on the amendment. But 4 will remain in that amendment.
Right, okay. I'm speaking, I guess, in principle on it, whether it becomes part of this motion now or whether it's a later motion. In principle, I'm speaking in favour of it. Sorry.
Great. Do any have any other councillors wishing to speak to this amendment? And Councillor Bolton, would you like your right of reply?
Actually, I probably don't. I mean, I can appreciate the concerns, and those concerns actually point to the reason why I would like to see this service back in council hands. But I think it would be better, definitely, to separate the 2 elements of the motion, so that at the very least, if the last bit gets voted down, the rest gets voted up, hopefully.
Yeah, great. So I believe it'll be after services. So
full stop after services.
yeah. So councillors, we're now moving on to voting on the amendment. We're going to split this into 2 parts. We'll vote on the first part, which will be everything but that final part of clause 5. Are we just going to take out clause 5 completely? Oh, okay. But someone could move a separate amendment to insert. Okay. So we could instate the other half as another amendment after this. So we're just going to vote on this amendment without clause 5. So we're going to vote. All those, are there any, I just want to make sure everyone's clear on what we're doing. Yep. All those in favour of this amendment, which excludes clause 5? Has a different clause, yeah. So we've got councillor, okay, yeah. I can declare that carried unanimously, great. We now return, this becomes a substantive, but we've had a third.
Yeah.
One. Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, that's right. We're going to vote on clause 5 and then we can do another one. So, yes, yeah. So we're moving on to voting on what was clause 5, which might now be clause 6. So we're voting on this part of the amendment separately. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that has failed. So that does not become part of the substantive. We now return to debating the substantive, which has changed because that first amendment passed. Now, Councillor Bolton, you'd kind of foreshadowed another amendment?
No, I don't have any more amendments. Yeah.
Do you want to move clause 5 without the...
Oh, yeah.
Without the inclusion?
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll move that, yeah.
Great.
Happy to just accept that into the substantive.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, so we've had the debate. So that now becomes... Yes, so we're going to just make sure it's projected on the screen.
What's the new amendment that was incorporated?
Yeah, sorry. So Councillor Bolton previously moved an amendment. It had a clause 5. We voted on that separately and that was voted down. Now, Councillor Bolton has suggested putting in clause 5 again, but without the final half of that sentence. So we'll finish at waste services. including bringing it. Now, the mover and the seconder have said they're happy to incorporate that. I don't believe we've got it on the screen yet. So, Councillor Bolton is suggesting that a clause 6 be added, and that's been accepted by the mover, accepted by the seconder. We now return to debate on the substantive. Do we have any other councillors wishing to contribute or to speak to this item? Councillor Bolton.
Yes, I'm thanks, councillors, for voting in favour of all of them. I'm going to vote against the whole thing, just partly as a protest vote. I mean, I obviously do want waste collection services to continue, but I just don't like a situation where we have to decide about a variation of a contract and an extension of contract with such little time to really think about other alternatives. So this just goes to my point about why I think we actually need all of these services back in council hands. But I also appreciate we need a waste collection service. So that's the dilemma that we're in. So, but we'll do a little protest vote.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Any other councillors wish to speak to this item? Okay, so would you like a right of reply? So we'll move on to voting. Yeah, all those in favour? Okay, and all those against? And any abstentions? I declare that carried. Great. That is the final item on our special council meeting agenda. So thank you, the people tuning in at home. Thank you to council. Thank you to staff. We do have a planning and related matters meeting beginning in 8 minutes at 7 p.m. So I'll declare our special council meeting closed at 6:52 p.m.
In Merri-bek, we now have a 4-bin waste